So let's move on to within the FBA. So within the FBA, two different things. That's where basically the item goes bad, or they lose it, or they damage it, or between two FBA locations, they're transferring from one Amazon DC to another. So tell us about that. How does one track? Because we don't really know. All we know is we send 100 pieces, and we don't track in our systems how many pieces in each Amazon location.
Yeah.
They do. So
Yeah,
how do you know something went missing?
Yeah, this is a bit of an enigma. Yoni, my partner, often does like a little webinar showing people how to do it. And this is kind of how we do it, but we do it at a higher level. Essentially, you download an inventory report, you download a discrepancy report, you download a reconciliation report, and you download a finance report. All four are required. And guess what? Those reports change every month, different tables, formats. So you have to be on top of the different macros or whatever creation you do. The reason is, what did I start with? What does Amazon report to inventory as at a certain point in time? What do they report as a discrepancy? Was it resolved and was it paid? 5 steps, very deep. So, for example, they said there's 4. In real time, it's showing 3. They didn't reconcile 1. Sorry, they said there's 5. In real time, it's showing 4. They said they reconciled 1, but they never paid you for it. So there's 4 or 5 checks you need to do manually or with some robotics or systems to make sure that they're honest. Now, again, they're very good, but we notice, 1 to 2% discrepancy at large. Half of that's this whole inbound flow, and half of it's these other things, which I call lost warehouse, damaged warehouse, disposed. You need to do a deep reconciliation, meaning obviously Amazon, if they, they have rules for the team. So if they find a unit on the floor and they could scan it and know whose it was, is a process. But again, they're dealing with millions and billions of units. So 1 out of 100 or 0.5 out of 100 will have an issue. And it's not their responsibility to go back and clean up their 99% work, right? No one does that, right? If you're in any process in life, or if you do something 99%, or your kid gets a 98 on a test, most normal people will not push them to find what he got wrong and why and go crazy. They did their best effort. So they're not going to, could they spend billions to be 100%? Amazon? Maybe, but that's not their responsibility. They have bigger fish to fry. Therefore, we created a reimbursement policy where you as a seller, it behooves you to check our work, to check our data. And believe it or not, Nick, I would say only maybe 10, 15% of the market actually does this or even knows it exists. Most Chinese sellers, most foreign sellers, most sellers that just don't know the game or don't go to Prosper, not engage in the communities you are in, don't even think of this. Just like they don't think of some of the other points I mentioned here, because they're just not used to it. They haven't dealt with the pain. Most sellers don't know Amazon makes mistakes. Then they don't know there's a way to tell them. Then they don't know where there's a professional way to tell them with like a service like ours. But really our biggest competitor is education, not competitors or internal tools. The point is that there's just a lot of unknown data, and that's all we do, right? We don't do again, not a sales pitch, but it's an importance of focus. We don't do listings, we don't do content, we don't do forecasting, we don't do ads, we don't do jack of all trades, master of none. We just do this. And we feel there's years and years more of development just for this, because the network keeps growing, FBA growing, it keeps growing, the countries keep growing, the processes keep growing, and just an inevitable reality. So that was a bit of a tangent on the impact. My point is, you can do what we just said, back to the point, unit level reconciliation on the whole cycle or on the dispose and damage. Extremely tedious, and I could show most people, unless they're really small or really tight, that's just not worth their time. Because the person that you pay to do that and the potential error you make, or the fact that you're only going to win 40% of cases when we're going to win 90, it makes sense for you to pay us a percent of success, only on success, and you risk it on your own or take your time. Yeah. And I could show that in most cases. That's where it kind of gets out of hand. But again, you have to download those 5 reports. You have to cross-reference them. You have to do a bunch of different machinations. You have to open a case. You have to get Amazon to understand it. Usually they reject it once or twice, depending on the level or amount or the materiality. And you have to be on top of them, which is the whole follow-up question. But if you do that and you know how to do it, you could win those cases as well. And you have to do it depending on how big you are, either every week or every day to be tight.
So, dealing with Amazon is like being a salesperson. They say the success in sales is in the follow-up. So a lot of the salespeople just make 1 or 2 calls and then they just drop off. But actually, those who stay on it make the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th call. That's when they get the deal. So Amazon is like that. When you ask a question, never a one-time answer. It's usually some standard canned answer that doesn't really say anything. Then you have to go back and forth. So, and in this case, it's not a question anymore. It's money at stake. So you have to stay on top of it. So